Hi, my name's Tom Zadansky and I'd like to show you something. This is a fishing lure that I designed. I call the Zworm. Now some of you out there might be thinking, no big deal, it's just a fishing lure. It looks pretty simple. Well, maybe not. I'd like to start off with the word simple. When I first started thinking about making my own lure, I wanted it to be unique and not based on a variation of an existing design. I started by looking at all the different types of lures out there and tried to identify a common theme or reason for their success. I had originally assumed that my first goal should be to make something lifelike that looked and moved as though it was live bait. After examining all the lures that I could find out there, I was surprised that the one thing that I found in common in virtually every case was that they didn't move like live bait, and in most cases, the spoons, the spinners, and plugs, they didn't resemble anything alive at all. The lures that did look lifelike didn't move through the water as though they were alive. This led me to the conclusion that with respect to the majority of the lures out there, their success came from creating a disturbance in the water that caused the fish to strike on some deep instinctual level. The only type of artificial lures I found accurately depicted both the look and movement of live bait were the flies that fly fishermen use. I believe that the success fly fishermen experience may stem from a slightly different instinctual response in the fish, namely hunger. And so I went back to my original goal and tried to recreate a lifelike lure that looked, and more importantly, moved as though it was alive. Its motion became my main focus. The inspiration for my design came from a magazine article I remember reading years ago. The article was about the world's smallest electric motor. This was a microscopic biological motor found in the E. coli bacteria called the bacterial flagellum. What the motor did was spin a small thread that acted as a propeller to push the bacteria towards its target. I remembered thinking that the way that the artist depicted the tail spinning in a corkscrew-like fashion reminded me of a worm or a leech swimming through the water. I thought to myself, if I could somehow replicate this motion, maybe the fish would recognize it as being alive. And so I started playing with different designs and carving different prototypes to test them out. And finally, this is the motion that I came up with. Is it simple? The design is. However, what I've accomplished is another matter. I have managed to artificially recreate the motion and the appearance of a living creature, and that in itself sets it apart from all other lures on the market. And more importantly, it works. My wife and I have been fishing this worm for the past 5 years, and we have caught more fish with it than we have with all the other types of lures we have ever fished with combined. What I've done is create a unique standalone product in a very competitive market. The only lure category this worm might fit into would be the artificial worm one, and yet it really doesn't, because up until now artificial worms have been made from soft rubber-like plastic. So if you think about it, after all, if the fish takes the bait, who cares if it's hard or soft? The lure has done its job. Now, will this lure work for you? I don't know. But what I do know is that it is single-handedly responsible for my wife and I catching more trout. I also know that we have a testimonial from a member of the Canadian Anglers Hall of Fame stating that it works on walleye, another popular fish in Canada. As to whether or not it might work for you, you'd have to look at this motion again and use your judgment on whether or not the species you're fishing for might find it appealing. If you think that it might work for you, this lure deserves a spot in your tackle box. Help me help you catch more fish. Help turn this into a reality by pledging your support and tell your fishing buddies about this video and lure. Thank you for your time.